Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. It's your DFS review video for the 2021 BMW Championship, where Patrick Cantlay is your winner. He ends up beating Bryson DeChambeau in a 6-hole playoff to make it his third PGA Tour victory this season. He's the only golfer to do so this year. I'll get a little bit more into a recap a little bit later because I do have some things to add to this. But first, I want to remind you guys there are timestamps in the description below. You can also find them on YouTube's progress bar by hovering over that progress bar. And another thing to add here, I'm sorry this came out a little bit late. It might be a little relevant on a Monday to get this out, but I did add some things to the process earlier in the week that I think are very interesting to show you guys how they end up doing. So I encourage you guys to watch all the way through. Thirdly, I should say, let's just try to make this as quick as possible. So let's go ahead and get right into it and get to our results. Like I said, Cantlay beat DeChambeau. They both got to 27 under. We knew this was going to be a birdie fest. You mix in bent grass greens that need a lot of watering, so they were very soft and what the heck is the word I'm looking for? Receptive. There we go. Soft and receptive. No wind whatsoever. I mean, there was a little, but it was like 2 miles an hour. So hopefully, if you tailed me on the Prize Picks video I put out on Wednesday, I said the strategy was hit the overs with the birdies and hit the unders with the fantasy scores because scoring conditions were going to be optimal. If you had done that, most of the time, you would have won. Personally, for me, I broke even, so there wasn't really a plus or a minus to it. I just got some of the wrong golfers on the wrong side. So hopefully you guys did well because, again, that strategy ended up working out pretty nicely. And on DraftKings, hopefully you had the tools to research to find those birdie makers because look at the leaderboard. Your top 10 is 18 under or better. And we kind of forecasted that. I think I said 23 under was going to be the winning score, somewhere around there. Obviously, I was wrong. It ended up being better. It was 27 under, which is insane. I mean, this was a golf course suited perfectly for Bryson DeChambeau. 3 drivable par 4s. The par 5s were gettable for almost everybody in the field. So obviously that's a huge plus for DeChambeau because he has, smaller yardages going into the greens, shorter yardages going into the greens. But Patrick Cantlay's putter was on fire. I think he broke a record for the strokes gained data or something like that when it came to his putting performance. Obviously, we don't really see that with Cantlay. What I had heard over the PGA Tour radio, I think on my drive home Sunday, that's why this is coming out late, is because I had a golf tournament Sunday and it was 3 hours away. So on my way back, what I had heard is Cantlay had been working on his putting routine where he's shortened up the time it takes for him to actually pull the trigger when putting. Before, obviously, if you remember, there's the joke with the Cantlay shuffle where he's just moving his feet constantly, standing over the ball for a long period of time. Apparently, they shortened that up, and that's been the key to his success the last couple weeks in putting. And obviously, this week was just insane. His putting performance was really, really good. DeChambeau had a few chances to win this. He could have made a putt on 17 if he still would have had the same result on 18 after making the putt 17. I always question those things when people are like, oh, you could have won this on 17. Well, yeah, but I don't know what that does on hole 18, So 17, he had a pretty decent birdie putt that he missed. The first playoff hole, he missed a 12-footer to win the first playoff. The second playoff hole, he had a 6-foot putt that he ended up missing. It's really odd. I wouldn't say that Bryson lacks a clutch gene because obviously he has a U.S. Open to his title. But I almost wanted to say that most of his victories have been without a challenge, but I don't think that's true. He definitely has a lot of wins under his belt for being as young as he is. So I have no issue with DeChambeau just not being able to close down the stretch. I mean, it's not like you can will a golf ball in the hole unless your name is Tiger Woods, but still, it's very difficult. Yeah, there are some easy putts. Now, you can make whatever argument you want. I was going to, on that 6-footer, you don't leave the ball outside the hole. You're trying to win the tournament. Now, granted, If the break is severe, then obviously, yeah, you do have to take it outside the hole, but you're trying to be aggressive on a putt that he had that moved maybe 2 inches at cup speed. Maybe not even that, maybe an inch. Keep it inside the hole. So that was kind of interesting. I don't know if he pulled it, but either way, Bryson should have won. And if I want to keep this quick, I'm going to just disregard the rest of it. But yeah, it was DeChambeau's to lose, in my opinion. And he lost it. He lost it to Cantlay. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to get straight to the GPP winning lineup versus the optimal lineup. I'm going to hide some of these alternate events because who cares? You can see Van Rooyen was up here in the top 5 and he won the Barracuda. Really the only guy inside the top 10 with any result from that tournament. But let's hide those things so we can see the $5 winning GPP as well as the optimal lineup. The golfers in blue make up that $5 GPP. So we had Patrick Cantlay, Bryson, Sungjae, Eric Van Rooyen, Sam Burns, and then we got to scroll all the way down to Emiliano Grillo, who was $6,500. Still scored good points, 82.5. That GPP winning lineup used up $48,800 of the salary, which is super rare. When it comes to a GPP winning lineup, most don't leave money on the table. This guy left $1,200. He scored 758 points, which was really good. Now, compared to the optimal lineup that scored 799 points, it was fine. I mean, 40-point difference, but the optimal lineup only left $500 on the table. And I always make this argument. Don't leave that much money on the table. Now, the guy won the $5 GPP winning lineup, and I think that was worth $30,000. So there's really nothing to say against his lineup, but could have easily got there with $49,500. So anyways, your optimal lineup are all the golfers here with that black tick mark. Patrick Cantlay, Bryson, Sungjae, Rory McIlroy at 9,400, Sergio Garcia at 7,600, and KH Lee at 6,000. Now, there was a really close lineup to this where you don't include McIlroy, and you go the 3 guys here at the top, Cantlay, DeChambeau, Sungjae, and then you grab the 2 guys here in the 7K range, Van Rooyen, Garcia, and then Sam Burns at 8,300. This used up 49,900, and it finished 1 point behind the optimal lineup. Now, I would make the argument that you want all 6 of your golfers inside the top 10. That doesn't quite get to the optimal lineup. It's really darn close, and it still beats the GPP. Still kind of follows all of my rules when it comes to building lineups. Get it as close to 50,000 as possible. Try to get all of our guys inside the top 10, which obviously that's what this lineup did. The optimal had 1 guy finish outside, obviously finished 12th. And I think KH Lee ended up making a boneheaded mistake on 18 that kicked him out of the Tour Championship. So he still could have been lower. He could have been inside the top 10 easy. But that is your optimal lineup versus your winning lineup. And we'll use some of this optimal lineup information a little bit later, especially when it comes to our bucket system. So why don't we just go ahead, jump right into the spreadsheet, get to the dream sheet, and I want to discuss the sweet spot rank because a lot of things drive from this rank. I look at the my DFS plays that I do Wednesday nights, usually go off the sweet spot rank. Obviously, you can see some of these are in red. Those were my choices. But also the Marquee tee time pairings go by sweet spot rank. So let's talk about this rank. Right now, I have it sorted from top to bottom. And really what I want to see is more top 10s, top 20s than I see any other result. And I also want to see at least 4 golfers that are optimal lineup golfers. That would be nice. I only see 3. We see Rory, we see Bryson, and we see Cantlay, which is nice. They all show up inside the top 20. That means you can start your lineups here pretty much with relative ease. Now, Rahm, disappointed this week. Really disappointed on the weekend because he was hot on Thursday, Friday. Saturday, I think he shot a 70. Yeah, you can see it on the screen now. And then Sunday, he shot a 70 when everybody else was going low. So, yeah, finished 9th place. Could have finished much better, obviously. Yeah, for the rest of this, I mean, it to me, it was kind of a fail. The score wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I shouldn't say as good as I wanted it to be. The results aren't as good as I wanted it to be for the score. And if I were to sort this by position, we can see some of these ranks too. So I really only look at the top 10. And when I look at the top 10, I kind of have a rule similar to how I do the Marquee tee time pairings. So obviously, if you were with me in the strategy video, you know what this is called. It's the 2/3 rule. There were 70 golfers in this. Well, there's 69 golfers in this field. 2/3 of 69 is essentially 45. Your Marquee tee time pairings, all 3 golfers that are in a pairing need to cumulatively be under 45 points. But I also like to choose golfers who are under 45 as well. So when we look at this, every golfer is, except for Erik van Rooyen. And I believe there's one more. I hope I don't have a... Hold on, let me see if I have a... Nope, this is everybody. I was going to see if I had a filter. Actually, there were 68 golfers in the field. But either way, we're looking at top 10 golfers, and I want everyone under 45. The only one that isn't is Erik van Rooyen. Just double checking. Yeah. He's the only golfer that isn't under 45 who finished inside the top 10. Now, Erik van Rooyen, we did talk about, was in that... that's called the optimal lineup that had all 6 golfers inside the top 10. It finished 1 point behind the optimal lineup, but he was in that one. He's not in the optimal lineup. In fact, KH Lee is in that optimal lineup, and he was 49th ranked. So he was also outside that 2/3 rule. And if I was trying to select all my golfers under that, I wouldn't have gotten to the optimal lineup. I wouldn't have gotten to the top 10 or the optimal lineup inside the top 10, which... obviously then it could be my rankings are a little off. So yeah, I'll definitely look into it, try to hone in on it. Maybe we can get someone like KH Lee closer to 45. I don't know if we're going to get Erik van Rooyen closer unless I put more emphasis on recent form, which maybe I should, especially when it comes to the playoffs. If I had, I'm guaranteeing Erik van Rooyen would have been near the top. Well, I should say near the top, but he would have probably been like 30th or maybe even 40th ranked. So yeah, I'll look at it. I'll double check. But either way, I want to go through my picks first because it does look at this. It looks at this field, and I obviously picked 3 golfers in each price range. What I want to do is find all 6 of the golfers in the optimal lineup here. I only have 2. So that's unfortunate. I do have a top 10, it looks like, in every single range, which is nice, but it's only a consolation, honestly. And it's not even top 10, it's top 20. Aaron Wise had a really good chance of doing, good things for us here in the 6K range. Really liked him. I also like Sebastian Munoz, obviously. There was something that I found out when I was building lineups that you wanted to have at least one strokes gained 3 golfer. So it's anyone with this yellow color, next to their name. I'll get more into that a little bit later when we look at the buckets. But once I saw that was like a common trend in the optimal lineups, I heavily changed my strategy to accommodate that. And it just made me like Aaron Wise even more, despite him not being under that 2/3 rule. But either way, the picks, not terrible. I mean, let's see. Could we have built a lineup with the guys who did finish inside the top 20? So this leaves me with $7,000 left, which means, I could maybe do like a Sebastian Munoz. I don't think that's going to even get us close enough points. No, I'm not even going to try because you still want Patrick Cantlay. You need Patrick Cantlay and you need Bryson DeChambeau. So, yeah, the picks not as great as I would have liked them to be. With this rank, I also want to look at Marquee tee time pairings. That's the golfers with all the dark green here. If we go and sort this by game, what we kind of want to see is each group produce a top 10 and hopefully optimal lineups. So as I go through this, it kind of follows the same trend we've seen week in and week out. Yep. Every group, well, I should say every group. produce a top 10 because the Victor Hovland, Schauffele, Koepka group did not, but it did produce a top 20, which it really isn't that good, but still not terrible results, and we still find 2 optimal lineup golfers. So DeChambeau and Cantlay are in here, and this is kind of the trend that I've been seeing ever since doing the Marquee Tee Times. So if I'm telling you you need to find 2 golfers to anchor your tee time or your DFS lineups around, you got some good choice or like good chances to get on these 2 golfers. Obviously, I liked Jon Rahm quite a bit, and I like Tony Finau and Cam Smith. They didn't do well enough, obviously, for me to win any good money. But if I had just pivoted down to different groups, maybe I get to a DeChambeau and a Cantlay. I mean, I did have I had a few lineups with DeChambeau and Cantlay, probably made up 10% of my lineups. So it definitely, I could have gotten there having the right pieces underneath. But obviously, you're not hearing me cheering and congratulating myself for winning a lot of money. So obviously, you can kind of tell that it didn't go that way. But either way, Marquee Tee Time pairings look really good. I guess the only thing really that I need to talk about is the bucket system. So let me go ahead, remove the filters, sort it back by position, but I want to clear out everybody except for the top 10, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to include 12th place as well. So I'm going to keep these golfers on, and when we look at the summary, so if I just go ahead and put a filter on here. In the strategy video, what I ended up doing was I wanted to find anchor buckets. And in order to do that, well, what I had showed you guys was basically I looked at the top 5 frequencies. So that would be these columns here. And basically, well, it was a mix. It was between that and kind of a minimum. Oh, it's by projection. That's what it was. So I wanted at least a conditional. It was greater than 0.9. I wanted at least, 90% or greater. Or not 90%, I'm sorry. At least 0.9 golfers finishing inside the top 10. And then I also had something like this where it was like I wanted max ownership to be 90 or greater. And remember, these are positions out of 100 or out of 600. I want at least 90 positions out of 600 from one of these buckets. And then I basically kind of use that with the top 5 frequencies and try to figure out where I should build my lineups around. Now, I kind of got, I didn't really look at salary or strokes gain. As you know, I don't know if I have enough data that really normalizes it. So we still can have a lot of volatility within those 2 stat columns or stat categories. So basically, I kind of remove salary and strokes gain from it, and we really only look at this. So as I go through this, I'm going to show you something, or we're going to look to see how well this did. So when we look at last year ones, I told you we wanted 2. So again, out of 600 positions, that's what this number represents. I want 200 of those to be filled with a last year 1. So essentially for me, that means a minimum of 2 per lineup and a max of 4 because I'm going to round up. So somewhere between 2 to 4. Do we find that with our last year 1s? When we look, I already have 2 here. There's 3, 4. So we have 4 last year 1s, and 2 of them are your optimal lineup golfers. So obviously when we think about it that way, the minimum of 2 would definitely hit on that front. So when we look at the next one, last year 3s, we want somewhere between 1 to 2. Because I'm not comfortable rounding up to 3. But I guess we can go 1 to 3. That's fine. So last year 3s, 1 to 3. I have one here in Abram Answer. I also have one in Alex Noren. So we do have 2, and neither one of them finished inside the optimal lineup. So that one, it's okay, but it hits. Let me go ahead and put some colors on this. So this one hit. And I'm just going to say, did the max hit or did the min hit? You know, the min would be whatever number is lower, which is obviously going to be, I think it's going to always be the max ownership. So last year 2s are those that did not play last year. We want somewhere between 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and then we have a bunch here in 12th place. But still, we hit there. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Last week 1s. We want somewhere between 2 to 3 or 2 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got that one. We can go ahead and hit that one. Last week 2s, 1 to 2. 1, 2. Perfect. That one hit as well. Last week 3s. We want somewhere between 1 to 2. 1. We about 1. So that time, this one hit. Last week 4s, I don't know if this one hit. If we look, okay, never mind. We do have some last week 4s. There we go. Course history 2s, somewhere between 1 to 3. 1, 2. So that one hit. And basically, I mean, I could go throughout all of this, and I guess I can still go through because course history 1 is pretty huge. We wanted somewhere between 3 to 6, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had 7, so obviously that hit. Recent form 3s, we want somewhere between 1 to 3. We've got 1, so that works out. Was not in the optimal lineup. Either way, still works out. Then we want anywhere between 2 to 5 recent form 1s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So obviously that one hit. Recent form 2s, somewhere between 1 to 2. 1, 2. So there you have it. The bucket system, 100% with the stats we went through, the anchor buckets that is, 100% correct. Which I'm really digging how the projections work out. I'm really digging how the max ownership. It's something that I've been working on, that I've been trying to figure out the right way to present the data, and I think this is the right way to do it. When it comes to the optimal lineups, this was kind of a fun one to look at as well. So what I ended up doing here was kind of got rid of these conditionals, and I went to the frequency rate when it came to the optimal lineups, and I wanted greater than or equal to 75%. So obviously we kind of still have some of these buckets here. And the optimal lineup, that's me actually looking at every single year which golfers were in the optimal lineup and which buckets did they belong to give us a little bit of a historical context, historical data to go by. And the very first thing I want to look at are all the mins, all the 100% frequency rates. Do we still see those same numbers with the rest of these buckets? So I've highlighted all of the main buckets that have 100%. Obviously, we know last year 1s. We had we had around 4, right? Might have been over. But either way, the projection part of this one hit. That one hits. When it comes to the last week 1s, that one hit. You wanted at least 1. We found at least 3. When it came to your course history 1s, we wanted at least 3. We had more than 5. And then the other ones here, recent form 1s and 2s, that one hit. Recent form 4, that was a minimum of 1, but because of the number of golfers in that bucket, so obviously if we look here, bucket totals, in that bucket is right here. There's 7 this year. Usually we see around 10 or 11. And then if we look at the strength of field that was that represented of this bucket, only 31 points went towards it, which was 4.33% of the strength of field points for this tournament. That gave us a really low projection, and in all honesty, that was the reason, in my opinion, why recent form 4 did not show up inside the top 10. So obviously, we can look at all these historical data points like I've done in the past where I go, hey, you need to play a recent form 4 golfer, somebody who has that 60 to 80 range. And I'd say it with full confidence because obviously that's what the historical data shows. But the thing is, we have to determine, or we have to look at the golfers in those buckets. And obviously this one, recent form 4, I don't think we had any good golfers in it. If I were to go ahead and just open this up to everybody and only look at recent form 4s, remember, we only had 4% of our strength of field that went towards that. Look at the golfers that are in it. Are you picking any of these guys with full confidence? Of course not. So that's why the projections come in handy. That's why I added strength of field to each of the buckets. And that's why, obviously, we don't see this bucket working out. So we projected basically 0 to 1. And it ended up being 0. So this one was 100% correct with us. See, as we look at salaries and strokes gained, I told you about that strokes gained 3, that I wanted to find at least one strokes gained 3 golfer. And obviously, when we do look at the top 10, sort this out by the top 10, it's the yellow golfers. So Sergio was in the optimal lineup this week. He is a strokes gained 3 golfer, and he's the only one inside the top 10. You needed one, and there you have it. You had the one. But KH Lee was also in the optimal lineup. He finished 12th. He's going to count for the optimal lineup, but he was outside the top 10. Either way, you wanted at least one strokes gained 3. On top of that, for strokes gained 1, we wanted somewhere between 2 to 5 golfers. Obviously, we wanted at least one in the optimal lineup. So when we look at that, strokes gained 1, Patrick Cantlay, he's in the optimal. Rory McIlroy is in the optimal. He was a strokes gained 1. So there we go. We have our projections, and it's only those 2. You can see how many showed up inside the top 10. Ended up being 6 golfers, but only 2 were in the optimal lineup. And even if we were to switch the the top 10 optimal lineup versus the actual optimal lineup, again, the top 10 optimal is all 6 golfers inside the top 10. We would replace McIlroy with Van Rooyen, and we would replace KH Lee with Sam Burns. And even when we do that, we still only have 2 golfers that are strokes gained 1 golfers. And obviously you keep Sergio, who's that strokes gained 3. So it works out when it comes to the optimal lineups. And this was the added piece that I didn't introduce to you guys, but I added it after the strategy video because I just thought to myself, I want a more condensed look at who I should be, eyeing my lineups around. So now going forward, I'm going to add this optimal lineup piece, and we're going to discuss it in our preview videos. So either way, that's what we get to look forward to going forward. That was the little added piece, the little added nugget. I'm going to have this is it for the review video. We kept it under 30 minutes. I think that deserves celebration. But in the preview video for the Tour Championship, because that's the next one after this, I'll be adding this. It's going to be a little bit more condensed. We only have 30 golfers in the pool. We really only have 29 because I don't think Patrick Reed will be playing in it. But I'm gonna get that one out shortly after I post this one. I'll be working on it at least. Hopefully I get that out at least by midnight Central Standard Time. I think that's doable. So be on the lookout for that. We'll provide a giveaway in that one like we did for the preview and strategy videos for this one. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the preview for the Tour Championship. All right, bye.